In this tutorial, I will be showing you some of the basics of using SOLIDWORKS to make a independently designed lamp, such as one we can see here. Using different sections, we'll make a single part for the PCB. I'll show you how to import a pre-built switch, how to make a base, which we can also use as the lid, and make a middle section that we can add again and again, and finally how to use appearance so that we can kind of differentiate between the PCB, the lids or sections that'll be clear and sections that'll be made of MDF. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to start by going up to new, and I'm going to make a new part and say OK. Now our first section we're going to make is we're going to make the PCB. Now from the website we are told that the dimensions of the PCB are 25 by 20 with a depth of 3 mil. Okay, so 20, 25 and 3. So let's go to, so we're starting a new part, so we go to sketch and then again to top left to sketch. We're going to select the top plane as if we're drawing from looking down on top of the part, and we're then going to select the rectangle tool, and going from the center point, if I just hover over the center point, you'll see it goes orange, so it's selected, left click and drag that away. Okay, and that's going to draw our initial shape. Now it doesn't matter how accurate I am to start with, because I'm actually going to use the smart dimensions and actually manually set these to be the exact size I want to be. So top left, smart dimension. I'm going to select the top line here, so I've not clicked anything, I'm just dragging over the top of it. As it goes orange, I can just left click and move up a little bit, and we're going to say that is going to be 25. I'll just type in 25 and OK. Do check that down in the corner it's saying mmgs, that's obviously in millimeters. If it doesn't, there's a drop down box there to change that to that. OK, I can just say OK, so that's 25 mil, and hover over the side here and left click again, move away, left click, and that's going to be 20. OK, and I'm just going to finally say OK on the green tick, and I've drawn my rectangle. Now what I want to do is give it some depth, so I'm going to come out of the sketch, so top left, exit sketch, into features, and I want to use the extruded boss button. Okay, and the default is set at 10 mil, so I just can go into that and just change that to 3 and say OK, and that's my part done. At this stage, if I would like to change the appearance of the part, okay, on the right hand side there's like a beach ball, sort of blue, green, red, yellow ball. Click on there. Okay, and I've got various different options. Okay, so if I look through here, it might be collapsed to start with, or I can just expand it. To start with, I want this is going to be the PCB, so something green or sort of coppery side, something like that. Maybe metal. If there's a copper, it might be give me a kind of nice look. Okay, and I should be able to just double click, and that's giving me the copper look. Okay, which will be what the strip board initially will look like. Okay, I've finished that first part, so I'm going to save that. So up the diskette button, file, save as, and I'm going to call that PCB and save. Okay, make sure you've got a folder. If not, click on new folder within your year 9 independent project so they've got all the parts in the same place, and save. Okay, I can now close that section off. The next part I'm going to do is I'm going to import the existing switch. So if I go to the website, there's a link in the section about this. So this is week 2, the paragraph about the switch. There's a link there, and if I click, okay, that will open in my browser. It says T-switch, and if I click there, that will open into SOLIDWORKS. Okay, and somebody's done a very nice job of designing that, so I can just save that into my folder. So save as into my folder, so documents, and this is SolidWorks, and parts of my independent design, and save. Okay, you may get warnings because this was designed in a previous version, and you've got now the newest version, which is 2016. So you just say yep, and that's saved. Again, I can now close that off. Okay, and now I want to design the base. Okay, so I'm going to again start a new part and say OK, and into Sketch again, and again I'm going to select the top plane before I start drawing. Now I do have various sorts of shapes here, and I can spend time designing something fairly unique if I want it to be fairly complex. That's fine, I can do a single. I want to use the ellipse tool. Yep, so I'm just going to click on the ellipse, starting again, always start drawing from the center. That's going to help me make sure that I'm trying to stay fully defined if possible. So left click there, I'm going to draw my ellipse. Okay, not quite sure what happened there. So I'm just going to do an undo and try again. So let's just check I'm on the right option. So ellipse from the center, and then that gives me the option to go like that. Again, I'm not going to worry too much about the size of where I'm drawing, because I'm going to have to kind of manually insert that anyway. So I click there, and down here I've got the options. Now on the size, the maximum allowed is 80. So I'm just going to change this one here. This is the kind of the longest radius. So I'm just going to change that to 40. Okay, and then I can move into this one, and then I'm going to change this one to maybe 25 and see what that looks like. Maybe 20 might be a bit more interesting. There we go. Okay, so that's given me that initial ellipse. I'm going to say OK. Now to draw the inside of that circles, okay, I'm going to use the offset entity. Okay. Now initially that will try and draw on the outside, so there's an option here to go reverse. I'm just going to click there. And I'm going to change that to 3 mil. Okay, and you can see it's now drawn that on the inside. And I'm going to say OK. If I'm not sure how strong 3 mil would be, obviously I could bring that up. That's easy enough later on. Just change it to 5, and again OK, and the green tick. Now I'm going to make the middle section first. So how I do that, I'm coming out of the sketch view, so top left, and then I'm going to go to Features, Extrude. Okay, and again the default's on 10 mil, so I just need to quickly change that to 3 mil because that's the thickness of MDF that we have, and also the plastic depending on which material, but it's always 3 mil thickness, and save that with the green tick. Okay. So there's my part there. If again at this point I want to change the appearance, it's the beach ball, and I might want to pick a plastic this time. So let's go plastic. There we go, plastic. And again, have a look through this, loads and loads of options, and you should be able to just double click and it'll make it. So I'm just going to go for a red. Okay. So highlight it, try that again. Okay, not 100% sure why that didn't work, but hopefully you'll be more successful when you do that. Otherwise, I can always change it later. It's not a problem. So I'm going to save that now. So save as, and I'm going to call this middle section. Okay, now to do the lid and the base, it's going to be that same shape, but obviously I want it filled in. So how I'm going to do that, I'm just going to remove the extrude. So on the left hand side, right click and delete, and say yes. And then I'm going to go back into sketch, and then I'm going to select one of the lines, and that will take me into the drawing mode again. Okay, I want to get rid of this middle ellipse, so I'm going to use the trim entities, trim to closest, the bottom option here, and just select that, and that's got rid of the inner circle, and say OK. Again, I'm going to exit the sketch, and this time features, extrude. OK, and just check it's on 3mm, and OK. Alright, so this is going to be my top and my bottom. It's now decided that it is going to be red, so we're just going to go Save As, and I'm going to call this top section. Okay, now obviously if I want to have two separate parts, so for example I wanted to have the bottom being MDF and the top being a kind of clear plastic, I can very quickly at this point just go Save As, and call it bottom section, and then that allows me when I'm modelling to have two different textures, because otherwise when I change one part all the other sections will change. Okay, so I'm just going to do two sections, and that gives me that flexibility. Okay, now I've designed all the individual parts, it's now time to bring all the bits together. So I'm going to close that, I'm going to start a new, and this time new assembly, and say OK. And begin assembly, yep, click the tick there, and I'm going to go to insert components. So I'm going to bring all the components in one at a time, and if possible try and mate them together so that they actually will sort of all fix together. Okay, and I'll show you a little trick there if it's not quite working. So we go to so I've got insert component and browse. I want to start with the bottom section and say open, and just bring that in there. Okay, and that's in straight away. So now I'll go insert component again, back to browse. This time I'm going to bring in the PCB and say open. Okay, now the temptation when you bring things is to try and kind of match them up as best you can, but actually you don't want to do that because it makes your life more difficult. So you're just going to click that away. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mate this section, this surface here, with this surface there. So what it means is it'll be flat on the board, as it will be when we mount it on there, but we're not going to mate it in any other direction, so we can actually move that around if we want to decide. Okay, so how we do that, select the mate tool, which is up here, so paperclip, and check that I'm on the coincident type of standard mate, and I'm going to select the top of that section, and then click on the bottom of that section there and say OK. Alright, now if I move this around, it will move only on that surface. Okay, so I can see if that's going to be my PCB, my switch might come in here, and I might be able to put my battery in this section here, or I might need to move over to the middle, or I might need to actually make the part bigger if that's not going to quite fit in there. Okay, it's better to make the mistakes now rather than actually cutting things out and then think, I've done it wrong. So we're going to say OK on there. So now we're going to bring in our let's bring the switch now. So again, insert component, browse, bring in the switch. Okay, now this may require a little bit of rotating, so I'll show you how to do that. So if I click that there, if I highlight the whole component and right click, I have this option to move with triad. Okay, now this does take it's a little bit fiddly, okay, and sometimes you have to kind of move it around to get the idea of what you need. Okay, and there's these three circles, that means you can move it in different planes. Okay, now I want to bring that down the way so it's sticking out here, so I think I want to use this one here. No, not that one, let's try this one. There we go. Okay, so I can move that there. I also want it to be flat on there, so I'm going to bring that using the blue one, bring it to the side there. Okay, and then I can just move that as best I can onto this section into here. And again, if I want to, if there's a flat surface there that allows me to mate that, if I can click there and then say mate with the top section here. Okay, I know that it's now on that plane there, so I can move it around on there, but I'll always know it will be level, and so I can actually kind of mount that onto the board quite nicely, and that will be sort of sticking out when I bring the parts up the way. Okay, so let's now bring in the middle sections. Remember the middle sections when you're bringing them in are 3mm each. Okay, so if you think